Twisted Timbers, located at Kings Dominion, opened on March 24th of 2018. It is a Rocky Mountain construction I-box track roller coaster. It has a length of 3,361 feet, about 111 feet tall, with high speed of 54 miles an hour through 3 inversions. This is a roller coaster that was a hybrid conversion of the once former hurler that resided in the back of the park. Now it has been absolutely overhauled into this brand new, rethemed Twisted Timbers, and alongside it came the Candy Apple Grove, including some refreshing of the area around it as well. And we are here primarily to talk about Twisted Timbers and my experience on my first ever RMC iBox track roller coaster, Twisted Timbers. Let's talk about it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
As with every single roller coaster review on the channel, before we talk about the ride itself, let's talk about how to get there. When you enter the park, you go past the very iconic Eiffel Tower and you walk straight to the very back. From there, and you will come across Twisted Timbers. There's many different ways to access this ride. This ride is located in the very back of the park, and rightfully so. It makes sense to walk to one of the best roller coasters in the park to the back because you know it'll be worth the ride. I've only gotten to experience this ride twice, and I will say that there are some issues with it from an operational standpoint, which we'll talk about as well. But also, the ride itself is very unique with how it is laid out. Even though the hurler layout was already kind of solid enough, Twisted Timbers made it even better. So let's talk about the ride experience itself, and then we'll talk about the operational stuff. When you walk up to the Twisted Timbers entrance, you actually walk pretty much on the opposite side of that turnaround before the first drop. And you see a couple of theming elements, like a truck. You see a floating tractor by the station. You see a bunch of crazy theming elements that kind of go along with this sort of spooky vibe, or this haunted Apple Grove kind of deal, or the Orchard Hill is kind of what they're going off of here. So one thing you'll have to keep in mind is that nothing can be in your pockets. They have free double-sided lockers that you can access. You put in your PIN code, you put all your loose items in there, and then you could go into the station. Nothing can be on you when you ride. Just keep that in mind when you enter the line for this ride. Then you can make your way up into the station, pass underneath the floating tractor, and from there, you are in the station. It's a pretty massive station. Tall roof. It looks a lot bigger. It's pretty crazy when you see it in person if you haven't seen it. It's a huge station. After that, you are told to buckle in your seatbelt and then pull down your lap bar afterwards. And after that, you are then dispatched out of the station. You drop down a little bit as you make a right-hand turn and you go up the very notorious RMC lift hill, which are usually pretty loud. This one takes you up the 111-foot tall lift. You drop down a little bit and you curve to the right. As you continue curving around to the right, you are then flipped over yourself into a barrel roll down drop. This is the first ever time I had to experience one of these elements, and it is really wacky and cool. I really like the sensation of going through a first drop upside down as you twist around. If you're in the back row, you really are just flipped very quickly through that element. After that, you go through a small bunny hill, and you go through a massive overbank curve to the right. This passes by the station, takes you to the outside of the layout, where you have 3 back-to-back airtime hills. Might sound repetitive on paper, but no, it's very much worth it. These 3 airtime hills are crazy. You get some really great airtime from these 3 hills right here. You go through a mini bunny hop hill into a cutback. This is one of the few cutbacks, to my knowledge, on an iBox track roller coaster. It was the first one added to my knowledge. After that, you are then sent up into a little bit of a trick track. As you are then sent back down a drop, you have a mini sort of outer bank turn. You twist all the way back around to the right, pass over the queue line, go into another bunny hop into your third inversion, a 0G roll. The 0G roll takes you into a couple of small bunny hops from there. As you continue to pass, make a couple right turns. As you pass all the way around, through a couple more airtime hills, a double up into the final brake run. It is a chaotic ride from start to finish. And I think what adds to the chaos for me is that I've only had a chance to experience this ride at night. So I wasn't even really able to see what exactly was going to happen next. which I think just adds more of the unexpected factor for me with this ride, and I think why I really like this ride a lot, because I didn't expect what was going to happen next. Both rides I sat in the back row on the blue train. My group wanted to try to get in the very back row. Unfortunately, the green train's very back row was actually not operable, so we decided to wait extra trains just so we get the very back row, which, if you haven't figured out yet, is the row I highly recommend you ride. The very back row on this roller coaster is the best row on this ride, period, the end. You get some very strong ejector from the front as you're pulled over, but the back, you are just lunged right over as you go down the drop. It is really incredible. I feel like these RMC coasters, and I've said the same thing about Wildcats Revenge, where I feel like the back row on these rides are the way to go with them. The ride is absolutely butter smooth. It is super fast paced, as with every RMC iBox track coaster that I've ridden so far is. And it really is a fantastic roller coaster that serves as a great 1-2 punch from that and Pantherian. Now, I have not ridden Pantherian, but I'm already going to be positive to say that that's going to be pretty much on the same levels as this ride is. But only time will tell when I get around to Pantherian to give that a ride. Now, let's talk about some of the downsides of this ride, and that comes down to the operations. Now, I don't exactly know much about the operation system here, so when I was informed that basically it takes even longer just to dispatch a train, I got really impatient with it. Basically, they have to have everybody leave the station, then they can open the air gates, then you have to, when you sit down, they ask you to put your seatbelt on first, but you don't pull down your lap bar, which makes it even more crazy. Operators then check the seatbelt, which then the main operator tells everybody, okay, you can now pull down the lap bars. And that all of a sudden just takes even longer to do. And it's frustrating, to say the least, that it has to go one thing at a time, check this. Then pull down the lap bars, check this. It's tedious, and it obviously is going to have trains stack. There's no question that it makes them stack. The whole ride duration time is going to feel very short. It's maybe not even a minute long. Like, that's how short the ride time is for the whole thing. And unfortunately, that they are very strict with the safety when it comes to this attraction, and I totally understand why. It's a absolutely crazy experience. It's absolutely, you don't even know what's going to happen next with this ride because it's that crazy. So I understand where they're coming from on that. However, it does become really annoying and tedious, especially, you'll know why, which is really the reason that this ride gets probably some of the longest rides in the park. During Winterfest, when I was there last year, it was the ride that had the longest wait time, and there really wasn't a question, and I think the operations had to do with it. Thankfully, they were running both trains, but at the end of the day, this was just something that I hope gets fixed or alleviated down the road, but honestly, I highly doubt it. Operation things aside, this is a fantastic roller coaster. It's worth the wait, it's worth the longer dispatches, and it's just an incredible roller coaster. If you have yet to experience an iBox roller coaster on the East Coast, this is a great one to start with. Fantastic, recent, butter smooth, even though all the transitions are usually on the more violent side because of the amount of speed that it takes into these elements, obviously could make it seem rough, but in reality, it's butter smooth. You are tossed out of your seat. If you love airtime, you're going to love this thing. If you love inversions, you're going to love this thing. If you just love speed, you're going to love this thing. Twisted Timbers really has the full package. It has everything you'd want in a fantastic roller coaster and truly deserves the ranking that it is getting in this video. Let me know what you guys think of Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and always take care, ride operators. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the park very soon. Goodbye.
Here we go.